Welcome back to the studio and another quick lesson for you today. Something that's come up in a few lessons recently, so I thought I'd share it. And we're going to talk about wrist hinge in the golf swing today. There's a lot of confusion out there about how much wrist hinge, when it should happen, is it conscious or not, things like that. So let me just put a little bit of meat on those bones for you just to help you out. In a perfect world, wrist hinge in the golf swing would be totally automatic and subconscious biomechanically. However, we know that golf as a sport not a lot happens automatically. The ball isn't going to move till you do something. And secondly, people tend to overthink the golf swing slightly. One of the things I see a lot is that if confidence is low with a player, then movement starts to get inhibited subconsciously by the body. The body starts to stop movements, reduces the amount of turn and the flow in the swing, and wrist hinge is one of those victims too. So let's go into a little bit more detail about how the wrists hinge, when they hinge, and this will actually depend entirely on the length of club. So there is no perfect answer to this question. It depends on the length of the shaft of the club that you're using, and I'll demonstrate that now. If I was using a child's club, which was only 18 inches long here, naturally, biomechanically, my wrists would hinge really early because it's responding to the length and the weight of the shaft here. If I have a club like a driver, for example, the longest club in the bag, there is absolutely no way that the wrist would hinge in the same spot because I have to get momentum into the club head and start turning, and the wrist hinge happens way up here and much later on. So in a set of golf clubs, we've got wrist hinge happening at all different places, which is why it's really important that we let Mother Nature, if you like, and biology take over that process. When we see golf swings where the wrist hinge is in the wrong place, it becomes very obvious. We see some golf swings where there's no wrist hinge at all, and the club and the arm are kept out straight here, and these people can be very consistent, but they'll never hit the ball very far because the unhinging of the wrist, the flailing action, if you like, is where an awful lot of our free power comes from. We also see people who are deliberately putting their wrist hinge in earlier in the swing than is normal. And these swings tend to look very narrow and close to the body because the wrists fold up here. It tends to result in a folding arm as well. And therefore we tend to end up with very narrow wristy swings. So I want you, next time you go out to the range and to practice, just to hold the club relatively lightly, float it above the ground and just start swinging it backwards and forwards. There'll become a point up in your golf swing where the wrists start to hinge naturally, and it really is a biomechanic reaction to the length and weight of the object that you're swinging. So just let that happen, and you'll tend to find that as it happens, it'll be further up here with the longer shafted clubs, and it'll be much lower down with the lower clubs like your wedges. And if you're in any doubt about how the wrists hinge in the golf swing, perhaps this is something that you should try as well. Take your setup position and get all your wrist hinge done before you move the golf club. So you'll have seen this before, but leave your hands exactly where they are, hinge your wrist so that the club is pointing down the target line here, and now from here, take your normal shoulder turn and swing through, okay? You can actually hit balls doing that, but it will give you a really good feeling of how much wrist hinge you need in the top of your golf swing because you've got a full 90-degree wrist hinge already put in. Turn your shoulders, hit the shot. And especially if you're someone who finds themselves holding the club tightly because that will restrict your wrist hinge, or you're not hitting the ball as far as you think you should, that would also indicate there's not enough wrist hinge in the swing. Just have a little go. Set your wrists without your hands moving anywhere, take a turn and swing through. And you'll begin to feel what it feels like to have a proper wrist hinge in your golf swing. So give that a go. Don't fight wrist hinge. It's an essential part of creating power, even though it feels like an extra moving part in the whole process of hitting a golf ball. It is an essential part. And see how you go. If you need any help, then come and see me or one of the boys and we'll fix it for you.